My name is William Gash, and I am in the Software Engineering program at the University of West Florida. My project is Software Configuration Management of the Operation Maintenance Enterprise System. My client is Interim Incorporated. I am also employed at Interim as a network administrator. Interim is a high-tech firm that manages large, complex government contracts, including the Eglin Air Force Base Range Operation and Maintenance Contract. This contract manages the local military test ranges, and employees collect mission data at those ranges. Various types of data are stored on the Operation Maintenance Enterprise System, or OMES. OMES is a collection of database applications that are managed by the client and is part of the larger Test Wing Enterprise System located on an Air Force server where Air Force engineers can access the data. The project involves the planning, installation, testing, and documentation of software configuration management on OMES. Software configuration management is needed on OMES for several reasons. The biggest reason is software version control is needed to track any changes that are made. Other reasons are protection against large data loss through rollback support, to allow more than one developer or a team to work on a project at the same time, to allow the Test Wing Enterprise System to become fully compliant. The Test Wing and Eglin Air Force Base are mentioned several times in this presentation, but they are not a client for this project. But because OMES resides on their server, completion of this project will also help them make their server compliant. This slide shows the project organizational chart. The project developer is myself. The client is Interim Incorporated, and the client point of contact is Marcia Holland. The project mentor is Dr. Donna Lohr at the University of West Florida. Client developers, test wing engineers, and network administrators will also be involved in the project. Because the requirements are well understood, a systematic, sequential approach will be used for this project. For that reason, I chose the waterfall method. The requirements analysis phase and the planning and estimates phases have been complete. Upon client approval, work will begin on the next phases shortly. They will include software installation and configuration, testing, client approval, and production. During the requirement analysis phase, the software requirements and the software and hardware configuration requirements were examined, and any risks were evaluated. During the planning and estimates phase, the methodology was created, a budget for software, hardware, and man-hours was generated, a timeline and deliverable documentation were generated. During the software installation and configuration phase, software will be installed and configured on servers and workstations. During the testing phase, we will be testing to make sure the developers can use the software to link to the Test Wing folders, that the developers can check out and check in software, that the version control tool is working, and that backups are being made. A final test will involve going through the entire SCM process. During the client approval phase, the client will be presented with deliverables, will be shown the final presentation, and will decide on approving if the procedure will be used in production. In the production phase, the client will start using the SCM process in production. The servers will have Microsoft Server 2008 Standard and Microsoft SQL Server 2008. The workstations will have Microsoft Windows 7 operating system, Microsoft Visual Studio 2010, Microsoft Team Foundation Server Tools, Microsoft Power Tools, and Microsoft Team Explorer installed. For the software and hardware configuration requirements, developers' workstations will be connected to the Air Force network and will have the ability to map to folders located on servers that are also on the Air Force LAN. The Team Foundation server software installed on workstations will be able to connect to the folders on the Test Wing server. Access permissions will be granted so developers have access to the required folders. The biggest risk associated so far with this project was the Microsoft Team Foundation server software. Government budgets are tight, and the client expressed concern about possibly having to purchase the software. I was able to determine that Team Foundation server is included in Microsoft Visual Studio 2010, which the client already has. During the planning and estimates phase, a methodology was created. This waterfall method was also seen in an earlier slide. The budget is broken down showing the personnel involved in the project, phases 1 and 2 which are complete, and phases 3 through 6 are projected. Also shown are the personnel's number of hours worked and their rate per hour, giving subtotals. The budget for this project is $5,700. The budget does not show entries for software because no additional software had to be purchased. The project deliverables include the Software Project Management Plan, the Software Requirement Specifications document, the Software Design Description, the Interim Project Report, budget, and PowerPoint presentation. Phase number 1, the requirements analysis phase and associated tasks were done January 22nd through January 30th. Phase number 2, the planning and estimates phase and associated tasks were done on January 31st through April 23rd. Also shown are the dates the deliverables, the interim project presentation, and the client approval acceptance letter was made available to the client. This slide shows a projected timeline for phases 3 through 6. Upon approval from the client, work will begin on the next phases starting on May 12th. The final phase, the production phase, when the client starts using the SCM process in production, is scheduled to begin on August 1st. This chart shows the software configuration management process, which is explained in detail in the Software Project Management Plan. Anyone who uses an application can submit a change request. From there, the Change Control Board can approve or disapprove the change. If a change is approved, lines of code from that part of the program will be put into the Version Control Tool folder. Developers will check out the code, make changes, and check the code back in. Then the code will be tested before being put into production. If changes are made to a large number of lines of code, the changes will be reviewed by the Change Control Board to make sure requirements and standards are met. Shown here is the operating environment. Servers and workstations are connected to the Eglin Air Force Base local area network. The Operation Maintenance Enterprise System is part of the larger Test Wing Enterprise System, and they reside on the Test Wing server. Version Control Tool folders are also located on the servers. Upon approval from the client, work on Phase 3 will begin shortly. Any software not already installed on servers and workstations will be installed. Team Foundation server software will be configured so it can map to folders on the Test Wing's servers. Permissions will be granted so developers have access to the required folders. Indyne software developers will be working with test wing engineers during the testing phase. Tests will include starting the software and plugins, mapping and connecting to the test wing TFS folder, confirming that folder structures in Team Explorer can be seen, confirming that software or projects in those folders can be seen, checking out and checking software into the version control tool, locking software that is being worked on, reverting to an earlier version of software in the version control tool, and making sure the folder backups are running. At the conclusion of the testing phase, the client will be briefed on the progress of the entire project. The client will receive deliverables, a final report, and a final presentation for the project. Once the client acknowledges and approves the project as being complete, they will have the opportunity to start using the software configuration management process on production items. The final phase of the project is when the client begins using the software configuration management process on production software. This concludes the presentation.